So, I really want everybody to get over the idea that you can rearrange the sides of this equation and somehow get just an x on one side. Okay, you can't, because you have an x squared and an x. They're unlike terms, they can't be combined. Okay? You identify this.
Mm-hmm.
What day is it?
Okay? Now, the default way to solve your quadratic equation
Right.
is the quadratic formula, right? You either factor that or use a quadratic formula. Okay? Anybody feel like they can factor that? I can't.
Divide it by 3.
Well, I know the discriminant.
You got
First you
3,
divide it by 3.
3x.
You could divide by 3, but then you'd have a 2/3 over here, and you don't want to deal with a fraction.
Okay.
Okay? So it's not a bad idea, but it's going to lead you to something that's messier than it needs to be.
Okay.
What's the first thing you do when you apply the quadratic formula? You evaluate the discriminant. Okay? The discriminant is that square root of b squared. In this case, b is 6, that's 36. AC is 6. 4AC is 24. I'm not going to write out the details of plugging in 6 for B, 3 for A, and 2 for C. You can do that. You've demonstrated it. People are fine with that. Okay? That's the square root of 12. Okay? Now, the reason I did that is if this was a negative, then of course you'd have a complex solution, wouldn't you? Okay? This tells you that you get 2 real solutions. It's important to understand this.
2 real solutions. How many zeros? 2 zeros? And I find the real zeros.
Okay, there it is, right? So that's negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 12, because I've already calculated that, right? I mean, it really is the first thing you want to do when you see a quadratic equation or quadratic function is figure out that discriminant and what it tells you, okay? We'll talk about what it tells you about the graph of this thing too, but let's, okay? And then over 2a, that's 2 times 3, substitutions are straightforward. And you do know how to identify A, B, and C. I've seen everybody do this a number of times, and almost always it's done correctly, okay? So I think you all have that down. Just be sure that you're not an exception, okay? Now I'm skipping some steps here. You know, the denominator's going to be 6, right? So you're going to have this divided by 6 plus or minus this divided by 6. Now, one thing you don't want to do is you don't divide 6 into 12, do you? I haven't seen a lot of that, but just thought I'd better warn you. Okay? Now, the square root of 12. Is there a simpler way to write that?
Mm-hmm. You find the square root of 12.
Well, you can't. It's not exact. You can
Close
approximate
You
it.
can.
That's okay.
You could break 12 into
Square root of 4
smaller.
times 3.
I hate
Yeah, I think I'm hearing at least 3 of you say the same thing, but since you're all saying it at the same time, I'm not sure what I've heard. But I think I could read your lips. Okay, so yeah, 12 is 4 times 3, and you can take the square root of 4, right? Okay? That's square root of 4 times square root of 3 over 6. That's negative 1 plus or minus 2 square root of 3 over 6. But of course then 2 will divide into 6, right? Gives you negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 3 over 3. Okay?
What? I get it. I'm here.
Okay? Now, if you get this, and then approximate it in your calculator, I'm going to penalize you a little bit, just a little bit. But I want to see that for that last point, okay? Because that's proper form. Also, that reminds you, if you have a negative under here, you got to do the same thing. You got to square root of negative 1 times the square root of a positive number. And that square root of negative 1 is an I. Okay?
How'd you get the 1?